Hi, my name's Alexis Cuadrado, and I'm a composer and producer. I also teach, and I'm a bass player. And it's such a joy to be here today with all of you. It's an honor to be invited to the Impact series for Composers Now. Composers Now is an organization that I adore, especially because of the work that they do with any music that's contemporary, interesting, and with no boundaries, no genre, no prejudice, and that means a lot to me. I've followed the organization for many years. I'm honored to be part of the board of advisors, and I want to thank them so much for inviting me to participate to this wonderful series. For those of you who don't know me, I come from Barcelona, in Spain, from the northeast of Spain. I'm a Catalan, and I grew up in Barcelona in the 1980s, listening to a lot of pop music at the beginning of MTV on the one hand, and on the other hand, listening to like traditional flamenco, which is what my mom would play. I played in a bunch of like rock bands when I was a kid, a teenager. Then in my 20s and 30s, I went crazy with jazz. I became a jazz musician, a bass player, and composed. I had a few groups in Spain. And then when I moved to New York in the late 90s, I started my solo career here. I played with a lot of jazz bands, toured with many jazz bands. I also played with all kinds of musicians, and I wrote a lot of jazz music, kind of like contemporary jazz music. I have 6 albums of my own, and in the last about 10, 15 years, my view sort of like expanded, and I started collaborating with a lot more artists from the different disciplines: film, radio, designers, dancers, and it's been a really crazy, interesting journey to sort of like bring all my influences together from pop and flamenco and jazz and new music, classical contemporary music, or music really of any kind that I like. I try to kind of be pretty free of prejudice as well, and just go with the flow and see what happens. Today I want to present to you a few of the latest works that I've done, and mostly done during the pandemic. The first of them is a solo piece that I did. This was part of a series organized by a wonderful collective of bass players, and it's called Deep Tones for Peace. And the idea was that during the pandemic and during the very turbulent times that we were going through politically, and we're still going through, but seems to have calmed down a little bit, a few months ago, that every day a bass player was going to offer a solo piece. And with my producer head in mind, I just plugged in my bass one day and plugged in a delay, which is an effect that just is like an echo. It repeats what you do, and particularly a ping pong delay, which is like the left and the right, and just sort of like improvised a piece. And I feel like improvisation is a super important part of my work. A lot of my compositions come from jamming and just sitting down with an instrument and seeing what happens, and kind of like being really in the moment and being really organic in a way. So this has no name, and it's just an improvisation with filtered delay. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. The next work that I want to show you is called Film Tattoo. It's a very short film, a 3-minute film, in which I collaborated with Karen Klein. Karen is an amazing filmmaker from Seattle. And during the pandemic, she created this beautiful movie in which she scratched the actual film with rocks that she found in her garden, and photographed plants on the space, on the blank space that was on the film, and then double exposed that film and reversed it, did all kinds of crazy manipulation with the actual film, and created this piece that she calls a botanicolage. When she asked me to do the sound for it, the music, I spent a lot of time creating themes for each one of the plants that she had in the film, and try to, in a way, replicate her process of introducing all these elements in a sort of like aleatory way. I taught myself the software Ableton Live, which I had never really used before, and I created a lot of samples of myself playing bass and piano, and improvised basically with those samples, and while I was watching the film. So it was a very new way of composing for me, and I had a lot of fun. And at some point, I didn't really think I knew what I was doing, but that got me very excited. And this is the result, and I hope you like it. Thank you. I'd like to show you another film for which I wrote the music now, but it's a quite a different kind of film. This is an old silent film from 1906, and it's part of a series of silent film scores that I've done, mostly performed live. And this series is called Silent Film Scores for Social Justice. And I found all these really interesting old films from the turn of the beginning of the 20th century, in which a lot of the issues that we face today are exposed in a very dramatic way. And I found interesting to kind of like bring this reflection onto all of us of like how much things have really changed in these 100+ years. How are we doing as opposed to what we were doing 100 years ago, and how can we reflect about what we can do to make our world a better place. When I've presented these films, I've also fundraised for different nonprofit organizations. In this case, the film that I'm going to show you is called The Consequences of Feminism, and it's by Alice Guy Blaché. She was the very first female composer, not composer, director, I'm sorry, filmmaker, and one of the pioneers of movies, really. And this was a commission by John Schaefer from New Sounds, and it was premiered at the very last New Sounds Live silent film series that they do every year at the Winter Garden, Brookfield Place. And it was premiered in January of 2020, a month short of the pandemic. And in this piece, I wrote music that is half through composed and have improvised. I used a trio, kind of like a piano trio format, with double bass that I played, piano played by Martha Cato, and violin played by Sarah Caswell. And it has a lot of influences of like turn of the century romantic music, and also tango music, and I would say some kind of like jazz avant-garde kind of thing. As I said earlier, I'm not sure I like to label things so much. This was kind of like the tone that I heard when I saw this film, and this is what came out. So here it is, The Consequences of Feminism. The last piece that I want to show you is a collaboration as well with an incredible musician from the south of Spain, from Cádiz, both a flamenco singer and a jazz saxophonist, and his name is Antonio Lizana. We connected here in New York a few years ago. I saw him play with the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, and I was marveled by everything about him, how brilliant he is and how intense and beautiful what he does is. And I got to play with his band a few times, and I asked him one day, come down to my studio and let's just do something. I don't know what. He told me, actually, I'm working on some music for a documentary, and they need sort of like a final, like the credits track. And I have these lyrics, and let's do something. So basically, in a couple of days, we got together and we put this piece together. It's in the style of seguidilla, which is a flamenco palo. Well, palo is a song style, and it's also combined with tangos, which is another style of flamenco. And it's very improvised as well. It's very produced as well. Antonio did the voice and the saxophone, and I played or programmed everything else. And we did this little video, and it was a joy to work with him because we went to a place that we hadn't been before, and I guess that it's really what I'm about, really, and what excites me to keep working and composing. And it's more the process and the exploration for me than it is about the result. Obviously, I have to like the results, and I hope that you do too. So, without further ado, here is Carcelera with Antonio Lizana.
Ay, el eco de ay, el eco de los cerros y en la
This is all for today. thank you so much again for watching and listening. It means the world to me to be a part of the Impact series for composers now. I can't thank you enough for having me on it, and I hope you will all stay safe and healthy and happy. See you soon. Take care. Thank you.